In Psytrance, when you start listening to a track, you go on an adventure. It's wordless music, and people just like the beat, and they dance together, they jump together, and they become one in the stage. It's amazing to be part of it. It's amazing to watch it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It unites us. It unites us.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's above all of our little differences. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it felt like going to the future, going to the pinnacle of human experience. It was like that, I swear to God.
When all of those people come together, then they meet each other and they become much stronger and they share with each other and then they go back and spread it everywhere, and it's so beautiful to see such gatherings, really.
It's basically humanity healing itself by itself. It's a form of nature communicating with us also. It's through the psychedelic experience, through this ritual.
In every party you can find the guys who are stuck to the big speaker and literally feeling the air vibrating, and with the psychedelic effect it makes you feel crazy. Come there and be accepted for what you are and loved for it, and it's amazing. Not just as a name for like Universo Paralelo, it's actually a parallel universe.
Welcome to the Sacredinbetween. I'm Samuel Zimmermann, and today we are inviting you into a hidden universe, a world where sound becomes spirit and rhythm becomes ritual. This is the heart of Psytrance. Imagine this, an expansive open-air gathering under the endless sky, where music roars like a primal force. Lights race across faces filled with wonder, and thousands move together as one. A ritual of liberation, transcendence, and connection. Psytrance isn't just a genre, it's a phenomenon. It's a movement born out of rebellion and creativity, a powerful force that takes us beyond the ordinary, into the extraordinary. In this episode, we're taking you on a journey deep into the pulse of one of the world's most enigmatic and vibrant subcultures. It's a realm where psychedelic substances, psilocybin mushrooms, mescaline, DMT are keys to unlocking a greater consciousness, expanding our boundaries, and discovering who we are at the core. For me, this isn't just a topic, it's a way of life. I've lived it, traveled across more than 30 countries, experienced the magic of Psytrance under the stars across all continents, and seen firsthand the power it holds to transform lives. Today, we offer you a glimpse into this captivating world. It's a rite of passage, an awakening, so prepare yourself. This is no ordinary podcast. This is a gateway, an invitation to experience something transformative. Feel the pulse, let the rhythm guide you, and let go of everything else. Together, we'll explore the sacred, the psychedelic, and everything that lies in between. The journey starts now. This is the Sacredinbetween. Welcome, lovely children. Welcome to this new episode of the Sacredinbetween. Today we're talking about something that is very near and dear to me, and this is transformational festivals and the Psytrance culture, a culture where I have personally spent an incredible amount of time and also worked as an artist for an incredible amount of time, and I'm just like deeply rooted in that culture in some way. It's not my entire identity, but it's a big part of it. And today, Eliad, Moalem, and me are going to explore this topic together. And we're going to start with a brief introduction of what Psytrance actually is. How are you, Eliad?
I'm very good. I'm happy to be here once more.
Yes.
And very excited about this episode.
Yes. We ourselves always don't know where the journey will ultimately lead us. So I'm just going to start and going to explain to people what the Psytrance culture is, where it's grounded off. It's a lot of things. It's very expansive. So we have to start somewhere. Psytrance is a relatively fast electronic music style, but also a way of life, a culture, a parallel universe even. And maybe you are part of those people that know about the culture already. Maybe you have thoughts or preconceptions about it, or you are somebody who never heard of it, which is also very possible because it is somewhat secretive, and also it is not everywhere. It is in most places you can find larger or smaller Psytrance communities, but it is not everywhere. So since this is the internet and you could be literally from anywhere watching this, we will explain it to you quite from the fundamentals. It started actually, it's contemporary psychedelic culture, of course. So what does that mean? It started out of the hippie movement in a way. There is some crossovers of the hippie movement and psychedelic trance culture. Psychedelic trance also has roots in Goa very, very early on in the 1980s in India. Goa is a place that we already, I think, briefly touched upon in our first episode. You can find that episode in our playlist, or, it's just the first episode, so not too hard to find. And in this place, there were many things coming together. Musicians, and then also the upbringing of the first tape machines to actually record synthesizers, the upcoming of drum machines, synthesizers, and electronic music in general in the 70s and 80s. And then the melange of those two worlds. So instrumental music with the new emergent tools that came up at that time for musicians. So this is, some of the roots are there, but then this was only the beginning. It then slowly developed into something and then was transported to Europe, where other people took it upon themselves to basically make it into Psytrance, the thing that we know today, which is also just like a big term with many subgenres. But it was taken from that early kind of very rudimentary style of music, but epic parties. Maybe we put some footage of some early Goa parties inside the podcast here so that people can see it. What is it all about? It is basically a place where people meet and have otherworldly experiences. So there is a connection to spirituality. There is a connection to spirituality in the sense that it is the ancient ritual reborn. It is something that people always did since the dawn of man, since the inception of mankind. There were musical rituals, I believe. And it's also like anthropologically and scientifically very well explored that, people met in the jungle or in Africa and so forth and used drums to go into trance. There are still those many styles in Africa, like Nawa, for example, and many other music styles, which are trance. They are also trance. And they are basically mechanically the same thing. A 4/4 beat to set people into a hypnotic state. With psychedelic trance, of course, there is the psychedelic in the name. So it is a forum for people to experience themselves on psychedelics, ideally, but it's not necessarily always the case. Without going...
I may say...
Yeah? Please.
I may say that psychedelia means basically expanding consciousness. So, it can be with the help of the chemicals, of the medicines, and it can also be simply the music itself. So, before Psytrance was on, and the hippie movement and everything, it was psychedelic rock. So, also big parties, a lot of people, and also taking LSD and things like that to expand consciousness. And with the electronic music coming more popular, then also this psychedelic music became like electronic and trance, and
but apart from the music, also a culture developed. So this is the interesting part, is that like over the many decades that this exists now, a culture developed. And also, like, there's the question: is it at its peak at the very moment? Probably not. Probably the peak was maybe some other, like some other time. I'm in the Psytrance culture since such a long time, and I see it really very much changing. And this has various reasons. One of the reasons is a shift in what people consume on those parties. And if you look at Terence McKenna and his output, there is a correlation in between what societies consume, because all societies ultimately consume drugs. For example, the Western society is deeply into sugar, deeply into coffee, deeply into nicotine, deeply into alcohol. This is like where the Western society is driven on that. Also, on top of that, you have the Western society deeply driven, not only the Western society, but many societies driven by heavy chemical substances like amphetamines, for example. Like it's extremely prevalent in the United States, and it's given children opiates also. But yeah, so, but then like, okay, there's like, you could argue that this is medicinal use. They are giving it to hyperactive children, starting at the age of 6 with Ritalin and Vyvanse and so forth, and also to adults. And then there is some societal drugs that we take all the time. Like, for example, you are just like having a coffee. And
yeah,
and
it's decaf, but yeah,
it is decaf. Okay, then okay, fair enough. So
I drink coffee, but right now it's
a decaf.
Yeah.
So what a society consumes ultimately has a huge influence on that society. It's like, it's a huge influence. So I saw the shift away in recent years, specifically in the past 10 years, from entheogenic psychedelics that you found on those events, and now to different substances. So I don't know if we are even the best authority to explain this time of the origins of Psytrance, because we also only know it from what we learned about it. We don't have first-hand experience of that. My time with Psytrance started around 2002 to 2004, maybe, as a very, very young guy, and was back then a fascinating culture. And the more I learned about it, the more it fascinated me. And it was the high times, I believe. Like around 2006, believe was a pretty high moment for psychedelic trance culture, because it was already, the internet was there. So people could network, and they did network in a better way than they do today, in my opinion, because there was not a monopoly power like Facebook, for example, where everything is on Facebook, right? So
yeah, I think one of the main differences between the past and the present is that in the beginning, those were like nature parties, very much underground, very unknown and unaccepted. And with time, it became something which is a little bit more and more out in the open and legitimized, and you have legal and big parties.
To be honest, when I'm thinking about 2006, I think about like Boom Festival, which is like it was a huge event, 26,000 people, and and legal, of course, very legal in that sense. A crazy time. It was in a way not very known back then by society what Psytrance culture is at all. Not by politics, not by police very much, I guess. It was not very much, it was very mystical at that time in a way, you know? It was very, very, very underground, but very active. Extremely, there were big gatherings at that time already, I have to say. So it was not really completely only like, hidden parties. There were, Ozora was already happening and Boom Festival was already happening. Goa is a place that is very important when we talk about Psytrance culture. I know that you had your experience. I had a very unique experience myself there, and how I got to know it and how I came to love it ultimately. And it's constantly shifting. It's constantly shifting. If you think about like 5 years ago, it was completely different. Also because of what all the things that happened in between, of course. Definitely, the Goan beach parties were super important, and even nowadays there are still like, big gatherings on Goa's beaches. I'm thinking about going actually this year, having a little tour and playing some of my projects there. I will talk to one guy about this soon, so maybe I will be there. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about early, very influential artists. Maybe you probably know them, and even our audience, I guess, knows some of them because they are quite famous. On our notes, we have written Rajaram, Simon Posford, aka Spongel, and Infected Mushroom. So it's a very, very, very basic list. There are so many more influential people in many, many, substyles and so forth. There are influential people for those substyles. Do you know all of those? I'm pretty sure you do, right?
Yeah. I know those. Especially Infected Mushroom, obviously it's from here, from my country, and a few other names like Skazi, Asterix, Darwish, like those are the very popular names that I know from here.
Bliss.
But yeah, I know.
Bliss,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, Bliss, one of the best Psytrance on stage performers for sure. I was listening those guys religiously when I was young, and for me the Psytrance culture was a place where I was I had the opportunity to travel even before I was an artist. People just took me with them, and I was 18 and already had seen large parts of Europe because of the Psytrance culture. I was way too young, I guess, on Psytrance parties. I was super tall, so I don't know. I got into clubs very early, and I got to know the people behind the scene, so to say. So at 16, I was already in all the backstage areas in Munich, and Munich had a marvelous psychedelic trance culture for some reason in the early 2000s, where there was weekly top-notch bookings from world-class artists. We had like weekly events, like there was event series that were just weekly, and it was under extreme repression where this culture bloomed. And in this environment of underground parties in the woods, also, like, they couldn't stop us from doing this, baby. They tried, but they couldn't. And also, actually, nice indoor parties that were super, super. Nowadays, those kind of indoor parties don't exist. Like with a lot of batik, like really people created a completely different world where you don't feel you're in some city club, but you're like in a really different space. And we had amazing parties on farms, of course, on farms in Bavaria. Because in Bavaria, as I mentioned, it was heavy suppression through the political leaders, and also because of the police, of course. They tried to kill this culture under all circumstances because they thought it's just about drugs, which it's not. It's about mind expansion. As Eliad already hinted to, the music itself can be enough as a tool for mind expansion if you let it happen. On the other hand, we don't need to fool ourselves. What I said is very true. It's a forum for people to hopefully safely experience themselves. A lot of the
I would say even more than just a forum. It's a family, it's a tribe. Like, it's a very, very beautiful space to be in, the people and the vibration and
that is true.
It's a very amazing feeling. Yeah,
that is true. And it's also global, and that is very fascinating. That I got invited to almost 30 countries and to places like Nepal, from Nepali people, for example. There's small tribes everywhere of people listening to this music. There's big tribes like Brazil, Portugal, Germany, you could also say. And Japan, Israel, those are all places with rather big scenes. South Africa. Australia has a community. Yeah. They're all in various sizes. And even in the most unlikely places, like Singapore, for example. Singapore is...
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's very hardcore. It has the most stringent drug laws in the world, I believe. It's super, super, super hardcore. Like, for the tiniest amount of weed, I think you get heavily punished and so forth. It's like, it's no joke. So it's like, for that reason alone, it's quite surprising. And even in China, I believe some people made psytrance parties. I know that because I had this magazine, Psy Society, and we had articles written from people about those places. And yeah, it's a global phenomenon. The parties in Brazil, for example, are ginormous in some cases, or pretty much like very often. Like even a medium-sized Brazilian event is like a big event in Europe, you can say. They're really big. They have a lot of people. In Europe, we mentioned already Ozora. It's a very important event and beautiful. I've been there many times, and it's quite amazing. Boom Festival was always amazing, is still amazing, but of course places change, okay? You cannot compare them. Like, you cannot compare the Boom now to the Boom in 2006. But you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we talked a little bit about the origin of the music as a style. It was basically a hodgepodge of synthesizers and people with instruments like flutes and maybe some guitars, and like people used whatever they had, and it was quite unsophisticated in a way until sophisticated people got involved, and step by step the technology evolved and the music evolved, and it never stopped. That's something that's really, really interesting, is that it is still an active culture after so many years. It's very much still active. If you could see now, Ozora, for example, was sold out, I think, the last edition, with thousands and thousands of people. At some
I would say that like everything, cultures evolve and music evolve, and I personally really like the old school trance. My first memory of trance music was maybe when I was 6 years old, going to my sister's room and listening to Spiritual Healing by Juan, which I still really like, one of my favorite tracks ever. But yeah, things change, and they change also for the best. You can like the old school, but also it's very nice that it expands and evolve and change, like everything in the world.
Sure. One really nice thing, though, was that in the past there was not that much of a big separation. In the 2010s, what happened is that many mono festivals were happening and parties coming up, mono parties coming up. And instead of Psytrance being one big, big culture, it started to really separate itself. And nowadays, you have high tech and dark psy and psycore. Psycore is the most extreme iteration of psychedelic music yet, or of psychedelic trance yet. It's like extremely high BPM. And I was just on such a party with a friend of mine in Berlin on an underground psycore event, where it's mostly like above 220 BPM or something like that. And
Wow.
it's crazy. And it's so far removed from original Psytrance in a way, also culturally. Yeah. It's funny. It reminded me on Boom Festival 2006, we were chilling on the lake. And at Boom Festival, there's this interesting phenomena where there's always the anti-boom. There's the Boom Festival and there's the anti-boom. You never heard of the anti-boom? The anti-boom...
No, tell me about it.
The anti-boom is exactly what the name suggests. It's instead of you have to pay for the ticket, you don't have to pay for the ticket, and it's like free, and it's core. It's core people. And not even back then, it was not even Psycore was not born yet, so it was just core. Core is very... Oh my God, I can't really explain it. It's extremely hard and usually quite aggressive music. And I don't know. And those people, anyway, they came over from the lake, and there was this kind of female leader of this group, and she was like super wasted in a way, I have to say. And they basically came as like, I don't know how I think they snuck in. They probably 100% they snuck in. 100% they didn't pay because this is against their ethos basically. And it's like, how to explain the anti-boom. Maybe we can find some footage and I can show it to you. It's just like in Psytrance, it is spiritually adjacent. You don't have to be super spiritual, but since it is so close to the psychedelic experience, it's like, spirituality is inherently a thing in the psychedelic culture. In the core culture, that's not really a thing, for example. In the psycore culture. Yeah, now, yes, it is. So don't confuse now when I'm saying core and psycore. Psycore is a relatively new phenomenon. And then when I'm saying core is this more original core. I'm really not the right person actually to talk about it because I never went too much, into it, basically. It's a bit too much.
And there is also the opposite. There is also the opposite of like psychill and
of course. Yeah,
so this is more mellow.
Yes, extremely mellow. This is the thing. So like Psytrance music, now it became that overarching kind of genre. And as you say, there is ambience, for example. There is psychill, there is progressive psy, there is xenonesque psy, which is like more a mix of techno and psychedelic trance. There is everything. It's like one of the electronic music styles with the most substyles, I guess. Although it's quite common in all styles, like D&B, for example. You know how many substyles drum and bass has? A lot. Like a gazillion substyles.
But I think besides what you said about the anti-boom, which I didn't know from before, in my experience, even if people like different genres, they still very much have respect for each other and still consider themselves part of the same big family, let's say.
I don't think that this is always the case. I do think like that. I truly do think like that. And I have an appreciation as much for amazing chill out as I have for high BPM styles. Or as I have for great performers like Bliss, for example. Like, I can respect anything if it's genuine and not a sellout kind of thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make money. You should make a lot of money with great music. It's not what I'm saying. But, like, that shouldn't be the aim or the ultimate driver. And usually it isn't. Usually this is not like where really the magic is coming from. It's not like, I want to make a lot of money and become very famous. This is not how you create a project like Spongel or something like that. This music is born out of love, hopefully. So
also one more thing I really like.
Yeah.
Sorry. Also one more thing I really like is the instrumental psytrance. So they bring didgeridoo and drums and guitar.
Like
still today, I mean, not in the tribes like you said before.
Olive Tree Dance is a great example of that. For example,
it's very amazing.
It is. It can be super amazing, of course. Trance music has so many faces. Psytrance, though, usually is mostly electronic or a mix of electronic and not electronic. But I like it if it's so open that even like, completely not electronic projects, they have their space. It's just you need to put them in the right place on a Psytrance event. Or in the right space. Right place or right space. Meaning, the right time in the timetable or the right floor on your festival where such a thing really works. Let's talk a little bit about festivals a bit more. I know you haven't been on many great festivals, right? Like on the big ones? Did you see many of them?
Yeah, I've not been on the big festivals. I've been on smaller festivals or parties of like just one night or something like that, or something we made like for friends only. And the big festivals, unfortunately, I've not been. I've seen many videos, of course, but it's not the same.
It is not the same, no. Yeah, those big events I love them. There are people who don't like them. I have been at Universo Paralelo, for example, in Brazil because I played there, which was a great honor, of course. And there's still some which I haven't been, like Burning Man, for example, which is not a pure Psytrance festival at all, but you will have Psytrance as well there, of course, because it is a transformational festival, you know? Like, not every Psytrance festival is a transformational festival, I'd say, but many of them are. Ozora is, Boom is 100%, Universo Paralelo also is. Yet again, Universo Paralelo in Brazil is not a pure Psytrance festival. There's also techno and acoustical music and so forth. I had a lot of really otherworldly experiences on those festivals, and they gave me a safe space to have psychedelic experience. I don't know. Nowadays, I'm not personally, if I'm not playing on festivals, I'm not like experiencing them that much anymore as I used to. I think in 2020, I was, for the first time in maybe a decade, I visited a festival like a visitor, you know? And yeah, usually now I don't go there so much anymore, but I want to. Maybe next year I might go to Ozora or something like that just to have a look at it, or play there, try to play there at least. It's
hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. Yes.
Maybe with Shakti.
Maybe with Shakti, who knows. And on those great festivals, it's more than just music. It's really playgrounds for adults, I would say. And yeah, it's playgrounds for adults, because it's psychedelic playgrounds consisting out of art, out of visuals, and out of community activities. So usually on those bigger events specifically, also sometimes on smaller events, you have workshops, you have, you know, yoga sessions, you have even stuff like cinemas where you can go, that are all open air, of course. And some of those festivals are almost like futuristic cities that are built into the nature just for a limited amount of time. Also, festivals like Boom, they have the great thing that they are trying to be sustainable. So it's all, you know, they try to really be as green as possible, have compost toilet systems, have their own water cleansing systems with sand and plant. There are different systems for that, like and so forth. There's tons of land art, so literally you can walk around those festivals and you might be on a psychedelic substance, and you know, you're falling from one spectacle into the other. Oh, there's a nice little temple kind of structure there. Then you're walking around, suddenly you end up in a garden with edible plants, actually, you know, like where you can actually eat the stuff that is like growing on the floor. And
amazing
stuff like that. It's really, really cool. Everybody should visit such a festival, in my opinion, at least once. I mean, then you can still say, okay, I didn't like it, but hardly anyone goes to a festival like Ozora or to Boom Festival and comes back and says he doesn't like it. Even the people that didn't know the culture before, because it is such a hedonistic place, you know? It's so close to like paradise, at least, like not for everyone. There's still a personal experience. If you have like if you have a terrible time, you know, that can always happen to people, but the large majority of people on those big festivals, they are big for a reason also, right? They're big because they did something right, and then everybody wants to go there. Even people that are not super hardcore into the culture, even they just like became so popular. It's also in general.
I think it's also really not just as a name for like Universo Paralelo. It's actually a parallel universe for people to. So we live in this modern world, and some people, they cannot feel comfortable being how they want to be really, and this place is like a safe haven where you can dress as you want, be the fairy that you are, the alien that you are, whatever you are, you can come there and be accepted for what you are and loved for it, and this is amazing.
That is a big part of it, of course, is the ability to be yourself. Like even on the event now, on the Psycore party, which it was really, really cool, and I recorded everything with a VR camera, so I actually, you know, maybe I export something of that and put it inside here. There were amazing people there, actually. Yes, amazing people there. And one guy, for example, was like having antlers. You know what is antlers?
I'm not sure.
It's like from
Horns?
deer. You know
Like
what is deer? A deer? No. It's like there's a forest animal. Like
the animal. Yeah, I know what is it.
You know,
Yeah, I know.
Jägerbomb, right? Jägermeister.
Yeah, like the horns kind
The
of
horns,
a deer.
yes. One of them had,
Yeah.
and he was like a little bit furry. And I talked with him also, and yes, he's like slightly furry, and that means like he likes, like he likes to live his animalistic side. So like he had like actually a tail, like sort of like a fox tail, and antlers. And there was another girl. Her name was Eine, very very beautiful girl actually, and everybody can live themselves to the fullest without getting annoyed. Like she was very beautiful. She had like a lot of those perfumes and shit that she did herself, and she was like very openly dressed. Also, like only like a netting kind of thing. Like as you said, everybody can like do what they want in a way, be themselves, as long as they're not hurting other people, of course, or disturbing the peace to a massive degree, of course. We can talk about that, like what happens when people are unwell. We already talked before the podcast about that. I mean, let's cut to the chase. People take psychedelics on those events, and it's mostly fine, I'd say, but of course it is, as a setting, a quite not 100% controlled setting. If you give somebody advices about psychedelics, you normally wouldn't tell them go to a big event with 10,000 people where everything can happen and stuff is sort of not in your control all the time,
Yeah. Especially not the first time. So if it's your first time with psychedelics, that would probably, you would have to prepare yourself, be with people who can take care of you and make sure, like, be responsible. You can do anything you want, but you have to take responsibility for it and not just...
I have to say that 100% there's thousands of people which had their first experience on a Psytrance event and they had an amazing time. I'm 100% convinced about that. But just as a precautionist thing, yeah, you are right. It's correct what you're saying. Just as a precaution that you at least are a bit familiar with it. But the cool thing is that there are, on most big festivals, on all big festivals, I would say, there are places where there is trip care, so to say. So let's say it's all overwhelming you, or you get into a mental room of pain, or you actually have like some, emotional breakdown. Then usually there is a place where there is some individuals which are only there to assist you in getting through your bad trip, if you have something like that, which I think is really, really cool. We talked about it just before, right, Elliot? You said that.
Yeah, I said that. You said that it's a very common thing for a long time, but here in Israel it wasn't so for a really long time, and only recently they've started doing it. So usually everybody in the party can support you. People are very, very, they know the substances and everything, but not everyone is really qualified to do it. So They can try to help out of goodwill. But now they've actually set up qualified people and the necessary, whatever you need, medical things, and a safe space like a tent or whatever that you can relax. And yeah, it's much better that people have more awareness of it and how to, okay, it's happening anyways. Let's at least prevent, we cannot from using it. On the other hand, we want them, but we want them to do it responsibly. So we need to provide the right conditions for it in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. But the most important thing is, I have smoothie all over my face. I'm just noticing that now. The most important thing is actually that the culture stays clean in a way. I think for like that it's a safe place, and it is quite hard to achieve that because it's an open culture. Theoretically, everybody is welcome, especially on those big events. Anybody can just buy a ticket. So you don't have, there's not a passport for like Psytrance culture. It's like now you can come in or something like that. So yeah, it's upon us to educate the younger generation, for example. It's a tribe that in some places also I feel got lost in the last years. I have to say, it's just not all perfect and positive in the Psytrance culture. I believe there's like always the potential of corruption for any culture. And in the Psytrance culture, it always came in the form of organized crime. Organized crime is always very attracted to that culture. And organized crime are the ones who really benefit from the bad drugs, which are also now a very common thing on Psytrance drugs. I don't want to judge, okay? Anyone can take whatever he wants, but the Psytrance culture is originally intended for the psychedelic experience. If you're constantly on amphetamines, or even worse, methamphetamines, or any kind of other substance, let's say like you're constantly on cocaine or something like that, those are all not psychedelic cultures. And we all have to take responsibility. It's like if people are selling those drugs, they are mostly working for organized crime. And it's the biggest downfall is that how close organizers usually are to organized crime. It's very sad that I have to say it, but we have to be a little bit truthful here. And
one of the most beautiful things about psychedelic experience is that unlike, let's say, alcohol or cocaine, like you said, which cause in other parties a lot of maybe fighting, physical violence and things, where people take LSD or, I don't know, MD or whatever they take, even in, so the psychedelic rock in Woodstock, it was the biggest, 400,000, half a million people together, unplanned to be so many, and not even one single event of violence. So this is amazing. And if you put some 500 people in a bar, they would probably fight and kill each other.
Sooner or later, yeah. Definitely if you put them for 1 week. Like, for example, we don't need to look very far. Yeah. Because in Germany, we have the luck or unluck, in my opinion, the latter, of being the host of the biggest alcohol fest in the world, the Oktoberfest. The biggest beer fest in the world. And I was lucky enough to live for a very long time in this city where the biggest beer fest in the world is held. And it's a nightmare. If you want to know how beer festivals are looking, rape goes up tremendously. I think we cannot even say that word. YouTube will rank us down, not distribute our video. But anyway, that shit is going up like hell. And everything is stinking like pee. And people are vomiting everywhere, of course. And it's a total disaster. You come to the Oktoberfest and you see they have those special things, which is basically those stretchers to carry them, and then they have some plastic tent kind of concoction thingy on top of that is specifically for people overdosing on alcohol somehow, I don't know, which is super weird. And all the people that live there, specifically the people that live close to the Theresienwiese, the place where it's actually held, for them it's a nightmare. You go and all the trains are full of drunk people, and everywhere it's vomit and pee. I'm sorry, this is how an alcohol fest is looking, right? It's the biggest one in the world, and this is how it looks. It's the R thing, RA ... is going up. People are drinking themselves into oblivion. Tons of violent breakouts, fights, crime, etc. And so forth. Yeah, everything that you would expect.
The most annoying thing. Yeah. Everything that you would expect. And I think the very sad part of it is that those things are not persecuted as much as Psytrance used to be. Like you say, right now it's much more accepted, but in the beginning it was not. It was persecuted by police.
Still not in Bavaria, for example. So in Germany, right? Oops. in Germany, we have the South, and the South is extremely hardline conservative, and they're still prosecuting it quite hard. And there is still no festivals in the South. Now there was a festival. They call it a festival. It's called, I think, Triambaca or something like that. And I think it's not even outdoor because they can't do it outdoor. They are still in the south of Germany, in Bavaria, heavily suppressing the Psytrance culture as much as they can. And it still happens that it's suppressed. It's just like maybe a bit more accepted as just one other weird music style where people, go crazy, basically. Yeah. The importance of art, we talked about that. Connection to psychedelic substance and the philosophy behind them. Let's talk a little bit about this subtopic. It's really interesting. So ideally, a Psytrance event is sort of a ritual, actually. So it should be sort of ritualized. The best psychedelic experiences are somewhat ritualized. Even if you go into psychedelic assisted therapy, it is somewhat ritualized, There is an effort in that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And this really, really, really will enhance it. For example, in Boom Festival 2006, the main dance floor, the dance temple, was actually a 27-meter high Balinese temple. Temple made from bamboo, from the greatest. Now, unfortunately, the man is unfortunately dead. I forgot his name. But the greatest temple builder, one of the greatest temple builders in the world. Literally one of the greatest bamboo temple builders in the world. A huge temple for an incredible amount of people, right? Like definitely plus 10, 15,000 people, with more than 25,000 people on the whole festival. You would maybe have like at any given time maybe up to 15,000, I guess, on the main floor, I guess, because there's never everybody is on the main floor on a festival like Boom Festival, right? It's like a psychedelic playground. Some people are doing yoga, some people are eating, some people are on the chill out floor, some people are doing this, But It was literally a temple building made without a single screw or nail. This is also fascinating. This was the last Boom Festival, by the way, that was made by a guy called Diego. And then he sold the Boom Festival. So since 2008, or maybe after 2008, after 2008 he sold it, sorry. He sold it. So this was one of the last editions actually by him. And with that original visionary behind the festival. Of course, when that changed, also Boom Festival changed. There is no denying that. But still, it's still something beautiful. So, just because it changed doesn't mean that it's something bad now or something like that. It just is not the same as it originally was. And you could literally in 2006, when you came into that temple structure, which is a holy structure and is, human culture, high human culture, developed over hundreds of years by the most sophisticated architects from Bali. And you came into that dance floor and it felt like the dance floor was made out of jello. It was such a thick energy. You entered into that bubble and you were in an absolute different world, in a different dimension.
And that's the idea of temple, basically, but for our viewers who don't know. So temple is a kind of a structure where you use different symbols, colors, materials, and many other elements so we can enhance and create a protective bubble, like you just said, that you felt it. So this is how they create it. And it's a very good thing. Also in other rituals, maybe there will be not structure and things like ayahuasca ritual. They will make the space support your experience, so you will have the best and protected experience.
Yes, because ultimately,
the
inside world and the outside world, our inner cosm and the outer cosm are connected, always. So this effort of this man created that spiritual experience was part of it. Many other parts, every person who contributed, of course, was a part of this magnificent, futuristic, hedonistic human event that was like, I was coming there only having seen relatively local events in Germany and in Austria with my 17-year-old, 18-year-old brain. Super deep into the culture. Everybody knew me because I was a poi player, I was an acrobat. So this was why everybody basically also knew me, because I was often on stage also, not as a musician though back then. And then I got invited to Boom Festival by one of my best friends, and it felt like going to the future, going to the pinnacle of human experience. It was like that, I swear to God. Like next level, you go there, you see the highest end fashion, the newest innovations in the psychedelic space, the newest concepts of mind and so forth. And also a phenomenon of 26,000 people in harmony tripping together, facilitated by this contemporary, ancient, futuristic ritual, which is the Psytrance party when it's at its best. I really hope that this culture can be protected. A lot of it already got lost or corrupted. And it's on us, it's on people like me to clean it, to keep it clean, to keep it alive, to keep it a sanctuary for human evolution. It's super important for humanity. The psychedelic experience is important, and therefore those transformative festivals are important, in my opinion. For me, it's nothing trivial. And yeah, so much about the festival.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think Psytrance people, when they are not gathering together, each one of them is in his area of life, wherever he's coming from. He is the one who's breaking limits in his surroundings, you know? And when all of those people come together, then they meet each other and they become much stronger and they share with each other, and then they go back and spread it everywhere, and it's so beautiful to see such gatherings. Really,
exactly.
You can spot a Psytrance member of the family or the tribe anywhere. You would look, and you will know, like, and automatically you will be friends. Anywhere on a train station in the middle of nowhere, you will see this guy, and you know this guy. You know,
for sure. There are also like there are of course markers, but in your country specifically, it was extremely popular. You had in the high times, what I called the high times, 2006, 2008, etc. You had Skazi running on MTV, okay, like every day, for example. So there was Psytrance music. Was very commercial one at that, but doesn't matter. Running on TV, like also for our audience, imagine that. Okay, maybe you don't even know what it is like to watch TV, but Iliad and me, we know, right? You remember?
Yeah. I was young, but I remember MTV. You have to wait for something to show there. You don't have YouTube.
It was very important in. I think I'm a bit older than Iliad, so like it was how music was distributed. It was how music was distributed back then. You had to be on MTV as a AAA musician. Also, Infected Mushroom and stuff like that was also on there. By the way, Infected Mushroom, huge influence musically on me and on the whole community, because those two guys are just like off the charts, legendary, ingenious aliens for sure. Like super high level music. This is really where, they put it to another level with their output, because they didn't adhere to what it was and just put it on a complete new level, basically, with their own very unique vision. For anyone who wants to get into Psytrance and doesn't know Psytrance, you should start there. You should start at Infected Mushroom at Spongel. Why? Because it's designed to give people an entrance point also. Where it's not really hard to understand. If you start with Psycore is so hard, it's so special listener stuff that if you show it to a person who is unfamiliar with it, it probably would sound horrible to them, quite frankly. But this stuff, it's super good. And I listened to it when I was 16. I had this ritual where I was coming home from school And I had a hi-fi system, and I remember I put them literally today, like my studio monitors, in like an angle, on my table, and I put my head in between, and I was listening to 1200 mics and to Infected Mushroom and to all of that stuff religiously, like every day, every day, every day. It was amazing.
In every party, you can find the guys who are stuck to the big speaker and literally feeling the air vibrating, and with the psychedelic effect, it makes you feel crazy.
But the crazy thing is that, like, for example, if you have really big speakers and you are going into, because there's those pictures of people crawling into the subwoofers, it's the safest place. In the subwoofer, it's completely safe. Because you don't get any of the highs, and only high frequencies are potentially dangerous for the human ear. Like any low frequencies, and specifically bass and sub bass, is absolutely not harmful. The waves are so physically long that they don't pose any threat to our hearing apparatus. They're not even getting perceived by our ear. They're only getting perceived by our...
It's your whole body that vibrates. Your whole body becomes the ear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to
Psytrance
say
as
that
a global movement. Yeah, please.
Just a second before we go to the next topic, I would like to say that Israel is has produced many great Psytrance artists and very well known in the world. From my perspective, it comes from a little bit unfortunate reason where people here are very post-traumatic and have experienced many hard experiences over the years, and so this music is really healing. So people, this would be their escape. They would go in the weekends and just release themselves from everything their body and mind have absorbed, and going to India and coming back, going to Goa and bringing back the music. And this is really a mission here of healing. It's not just like, I mean, music in general is healing and everything is good, but really Psytrance in this case in Israel is very much, this is the topic, like how can we heal from our very traumas.
Many heavy traumas. Like, this is like pain over pain over pain. I have, like, it's the truth, man. It's just the truth. Like, crazy. So Psytrance as a global movement. I myself got invited to so many places that it's like, that is already an indicator. It's literally everywhere, also in small places, almost everywhere. There is still places where it doesn't exist, where just like there is no community, but it's, I guess, not that many. The most countries that you would think of have big movements or had them, it's also fluctuating. It goes up and down for various reasons. But I can tell you a couple of places that I have visited: Sri Lanka, Nepal, India, Australia, Costa Rica, America, Mexico, Guatemala, Canada, Portugal, and all of Europe, basically. All of Eastern Europe, Romania, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, of course, Israel, and so many other places. So it is truly a global movement, and it's somewhat differently connected than the techno movement because it's so underground. The only way to become a techno world recognized artist is through official mediums. For example, I never had a booking agency, and I played on the biggest events, on some of the biggest events, and played in so many places and so forth. But I organized that all myself, for the better or for the worse. And it's very much a networked community that is born also out of that ethos. You can say modern Psytrance was born in the early 2000s. To be very realistic, okay? Because before it was like, it existed, there was labels like Spiral Tracks and however they all, I forgot the names now, I don't come up with all the different names, but there have been Psytrance labels that were quite important in the 90s. And it was unimaginable how expensive, how much worth a Psytrance CD was in the 1990s. Let's say you were a label releasing a AAA Psytrance or Goa Trance CD that would be released into normal stores, okay, which you could go into London into a vinyl store, into a record store, and you could buy it. Those CDs were worth millions and millions of dollars, okay? So one track was worth also an immense amount of money because there was no streaming, right? There was not even Napster. Napster didn't exist. There was no MP3 didn't exist as a container probably. It was not even written yet. There was not, all was in its infancy. The internet was in its infancy. So Psytrance came up and it was like very much informed by the early internet culture of ultimate sharing, of really like, you know, sharing everything, experiences, music, and also like, you know, you could go to forums like Goa Base, very important forum in Germany, which was where you got your information where the next underground psychedelic trance event would be. There was no Facebook
yet. It was very hard to find those places. Man, I remember myself getting lost in woods, trying to listen to the music to see where to go in the middle of the dark.
I just had this weekend, and I was going with a friend who played on the party, and we had to go through the Berlin woods in the middle of the night. I actually recorded it with my Insta360, and we didn't go the normal way. We just heard the music and we saw something like in between the woods, some lights, and we're just like, you know, just directly going inside through like tons of spider webs and stuff like that, and then like arriving at the event from the backside, not from the actual entrance, so to say. But oh my God, what a beautiful place. So beautiful nature. It was amazing. This is the good thing. So some places where I played was, for example, in a resort on a river in the Nepal mountains near Pokhara. I played next to 3 active volcanoes in Guatemala, of which 2 volcanoes were breaking out while I was playing, like in the highlands of Yemen. That was the backdrop for the people. There is even memes about that, because there was like, it was me playing, Frantic Noise, Mubali, and Dark Whisper. So like really a high level lineup, and like in the highlands with, imagine that stuff, like with volcanoes breaking out in the background.
The planet is dancing with you.
Yes. I played in Costa Rica in the jungle. I played, of course, in India in various jungle locations, and of course in the Himalayas. I played at minus 10 degrees or minus 20 degrees in the Himalayas just a couple of years ago, the coldest party I have ever played at, where literally everything freezing immediately, and only my super hardcore Indian friend making chillum. And it took him literally 1.5 hours or something like that to make it, because it's so cold, you know, like it's so cold. I don't know, like it felt like 1.5 hours. So then in Bahia, on one of the biggest psychedelic trance events ever on planet Earth, Universo Paralelo, I played there. I played in LA just recently. I played in Chiapas, in the middle of Chiapas, not far from Mayan ruins. Like, this is crazy, okay? Like, and this all without even an agency and stuff like that. This can only happen in the Psytrance culture, in my opinion. I feel like it. I don't know. Maybe it can, but I doubt it. It's like you will never hear of a techno artist that had the life way that I had. He will have a different story to tell. Also a very exciting one, I'm sure. But
the music is different.
The music is very different.
Techno is very much like more repetitive. In Psytrance, when you start listening to a track, you go on an adventure. You are like going like that. You don't even know if it's the same track. Because it can be so different.
Ideally,
and it's amazing. It's really
like,
one of my favorite type of music. And I agree with you also about how it's, you know, you were talking about the global, how it's like everywhere, like many countries, they like it. I can say that Israel is a small planet, like it's very diverse, many kinds of people, a lot of what to fight about with each other. But Psytrance party is a place where you can find every kind of people there,
Yeah,
like
it's also
religious people
interesting.
and
Yes.
secular and this and that. And they all just like the music. It's wordless music. And people just like the beat and they dance together, they jump together
Yes,
and they become one in the stage. It's amazing to be part of it. It's amazing to watch it.
yeah,
It's amazing. It unites us. It unites us
exactly.
and yeah, it's above all of our little differences. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
everybody,
Really.
it's a great equalizer. We are all the same on the floor in a way. It is a great equalizer. It's not, nothing matters anymore. You can be the head doctor of some important hospital, or you could be even a famous Psytrance artist, and it doesn't also matter if you're on the dance floor and just in trance, which is very important. This is what needs to be
Exactly.
protected, is the trance also, which I feel also is getting lost a bit. Nowadays, I see sometimes the parties, people are just going there to have a good time, which of course, nothing against that. Go on, have a good time. But originally, Psytrance events is also like it is the experience of trance dance. So to lose yourself in the dance, it's a very important thing to close your eyes and get carried away. And it's a human phenomenon. Trance is something very spectacular if you haven't experienced it yet, you know, because trance has nothing to do with psytrance. Trance is a state. It's a state of human existence, basically, you can say. When I visited all of those different places, I realized that they are very different. For example, the Indian Psytrance culture was growing at a very different time than the German Psytrance culture. And the same with Portugal, and the same with Brazil. For example, a lot of things that are happening now in Brazil. Brazil is almost like, you can say, like around 10 years late. So all the good things that was happening 10 years ago in Europe are happening there now with a little bit delay. Maybe 10 years is not, you know, you can't really put a number on it, but they're a little bit later because it just happened a little bit later. But it's booming there now. It's crazy how big it is over there. It's just also, Brazil is a huge country with a large amount of people. And for example, Portugal, what I loved about Portugal is always the concept that they have there is to make the events very, very cheap and accessible. So you have more people instead of, you know, like few people that pay a lot. You have tons of people that pay less entry, but overall they still make a lot more money because they will sell food and drink and so forth. So everywhere where you go, it's a bit different. In my place, it was going quite a bit down in recent years. The festivals.
I would say also Portugal has decriminalized all drugs like many years ago. I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So I guess it's also why it's a little bit easier to be there as a community that consume medicine, drugs, and yeah, I think it's easier there.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. In Portugal, that makes it easier. Although, like you know, if people are selling stuff, for example, that is never covered by the
No.
decriminalization. But as a consumer,
Of course.
yeah, you are safe.
Exactly.
Actually, on Boom Festival 2006, this was before decriminalization, actually, but it was a wild time. There were people on the dance floor with just like, you know, those, I forgot what is the name, but basically like a little store that people carry around, like a backpack kind of, but in the front. And they have lots of stuff and they're selling it. I saw people selling things like that on the dance floor, like trucks. But back then nobody really cared. It was like the Wild West, in a way. Yeah, Psytrance is ultimately a form of spiritual expression. It is connected, as I said before, to the ancient spiritual practices like shamanism, like meditation, and like trance states. We also call it the trance dance ritual or the trance dance experience, coined by Gil. Unfortunately, Goa Gil now is not with us anymore. He's one of the very important people that bridged the gap from the hippie era into the modern era, and a person that I fortunately had the honor to get to know. He invited me to his 60th birthday, and just a couple of years ago, he invited me to the Duni in his temple in Goa and gave me presents and stuff like that. Anyway, that just as a side note. So,
I would say also that from the point of view of a yoga teacher, a Psytrance party or a dance would count as Bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, because that's exactly what it is. You devote yourself into it, you disappear into the music, into the dance, and get connected with everyone in a big ritual. That would be definitely Bhakti yoga. So
interesting.
it's a very spiritual experience. Yeah.
Yes. To be honest with you, I think we talked quite a bit about the different things. There would be so much more to talk about this, so maybe we can talk about it again with somebody else. That could be interesting, no? Like inviting somebody.
For sure. Definitely.
So I hope that for the people that were watching this video, that it gave them a little bit of an insight into the culture from two guys that both know the culture from different angles. I lived this lifestyle for a very, very long time, traveling the world as a Psytrance artist, so it will always be connected to me. As I said in the beginning, it's not the only determining factor for my identity, but it will always be a huge part of my story, and it gave me so much in this life. It gave me the opportunity to get to know cultures all over the world, and to get to know myself a little bit, and to connect to the human tribe, to understand that we are all one, that we are ultimately one. So I am super thankful for it, and I think it should be protected and preserved and made accessible. Nowadays, in our society, we don't have entheogenic schools, we don't have shamanic schools, where we learn a healthy way of dealing with those very important substances, in my opinion, and should be like that. Normally, when you are like 18, 20, you should be able to go to a shamanic school, officially, legally, and learn about those substances and prepare yourself to take those spiritual journeys. We don't have that now in our society. So for me, the Psytrance culture is the second closest thing to this. And therefore, I cherish it a lot. It is basically, if it's done right, and in many cases, it is neo-shamanism. It is there to heal us and to bond us, to connect us, and to make us realize that we are ultimately from one tribe, that we are not that separate after all. And we should be thankful for this little bubble in time where this culture can exist, because we always think that things are going on forever, and hopefully it will. But this is normally not the nature of this universe. Everything ends, and also this culture will end. Yeah. Yes. And also this podcast will end at some point.
Everything will end.
Everything will end.
So yeah, I would also say that for me, Psytrance community and music has been a very important part of my path in the beginning. Much before I knew about yoga, much before I knew about spirituality, my way to connect was through nature, through those people where you dance on the floor and you make connections with people and the psychedelics themselves. And I will always, same as you, have a spot in my heart for it. Still I have, and still it's part of my life, but I will always have a big space for it. And also, like you, I know recently they have started making experiments with MDMA and ketamine and LSD and all kinds of other things for healing post-trauma, even here in Israel. It's very experimental, it's very small, it's very in the beginning. But yeah, like you said, the Psytrance community showing us the future, and now we are catching up to it with the whole mainstream community.
Exactly. And I mean, this is so interesting. This is like the Psytrance culture. It's basically humanity healing itself by itself, or an attempt to do that, okay? Like, and in all the distress that is around. But it's a form of nature communicating with us also, is through the psychedelic experience, through this ritual, because nobody takes a psychedelic and looks at everything, looks at our world, and doesn't see what is wrong. It gives you an infusion of truth and understanding, and also hopefully love. But usually the psychedelic experience has positive outcome for most people. I had almost sacred, not almost, I had very sacred experiences on Psytrance events, and I wouldn't be the same without those experiences. Hence, I wouldn't be the same with that forum. The Psytrance culture is really born out of nature trying to heal itself, I believe. Also, it's trying to say like, okay, stop, guys, stop for a moment. Take the medicine. Take the medicine. Okay, then like, how should we take the medicine? We are all monkeys locked up in boxes and abused for like slaves. So how should we do it? So you have to go into the nature and do it, actually. And you need to have the drum. Why? It's because that's how it works, and that's how
you get into the rhythm.
Yeah, that's how it works.
The rhythm of the earth.
Go 6,000 years in the past, and you will have a shaman sitting in the woods, and people blowing DMT up their nose and listening to drums. So it's like, it's not a new concept. It's really not. And this is part now of the broader psychedelic revolution and the broader psychedelic renaissance, of which I am like, it feels so confirming. I wrote a hit track that is called I Love LSD exactly 11 years ago. And I became a vegetarian in the mid-90s when it was extremely unpopular. Vegetarianism was not a thing. And it's utterly confirming. It's like, you see, guys, it's like you should all have listened to me and take some mushrooms, take some LSD. It's good for you. In most cases, not as a blanket statement, of course, right? Like, there's people who are in distress. There's people who are severely unhealthy. And then you need to take it from a different angle. But I'm talking here from, you're a normal human being we all have our baggage, by the way. Some people, they are like, oh, I can't take psychedelics because I have a baggage of trauma. I have a baggage of pain and so forth. We all have. It's just a question, can you put that baggage and store it somewhere else for a moment when you go onto a journey? And then, you can look at the baggage even from more far away and maybe find a way to carry it more easy through your life. Hopefully, potentially.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, that are the closing thoughts. Guys, we are a new podcast, so you are part of this new thing here, the Sacred Family. So please subscribe, as always. Leave a comment. Maybe you are a Psytrance person, like me, or like even like in a way, like also Iliad, like us, like we know the culture, and you enjoyed this whole talk. You enjoyed our conversation about this, and you want to engage in it. Then please do so. We would be super happy.
Let us know.
Yeah, to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your questions. And on what you think about Psytrance. Do you think that it is a great thing that deserves protection, as I and Eliad do? Or do you think it's some stupid hippies taking drugs? Then also you can leave it down in the comment section below. Also, we have a Discord server, not only a channel. We have an actual server now. So please head over there. Furthermore, we have a Patreon, so if you want to enjoy our podcasts without ads, ad-free, and with early access, so before everyone else, then this is the way to go. It's also the place where you can support us monetarily, of course. Right now, we're doing this from out of our own pocket, and spending a lot of time with this podcast to create something beautiful for humanity. If you want to support that, we have different tiers, and different tiers get, of course, different rewards. We want to make this really worthwhile. We know that there are many Patreon accounts which don't offer that much value. We really try to get you as much value as we can. This is also the place where we discuss with our followers how we proceed. We will have polls about the next topics and so forth. Although those things might also be happening on YouTube itself. So be sure to subscribe on the channel, hit that notification bell, and share the video with your fellow Psytrance nerd or one that maybe soon is to be a Psytrance nerd. Yes. Also, on the Patreon, we have this amazing thing that we have our unreleased behind the scenes episodes there. And those are often more insane, more crazy, more interesting than our publicly available episodes. Because first of all, we don't have to censor there at all. We can completely speak freely. Check it out, guys. Don't miss out on that, and don't miss out on the opportunity to support something great. Thank you so much for watching. It was an honor to have you here with us, and hopefully I see you guys in the next episode, which is already in the making. Elliot and me already planned for the next episode. If you want to get notified about that, as I said, subscribe, go to our Patreon, go to our social media. You will find all of that down in the description below. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Sam, as well.
Yes, thank you, Eliad.
This podcast, it was so much fun. I really enjoyed myself, and it was a great conversation. And thank you, viewers.
Yes.
And we are expecting to see you soon again.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. What's up, guys? I'm Samuel, the producer, and of course also the host. You saw me just now in this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun for Eliad and me to climb into that kind of topic and discover it together with you. If you enjoyed it, then please leave a like. A lot of work is going into this podcast. I think you can feel it. If you want to support it and want to gain access to an extra bonus episode, lots of more cool features and benefits and stuff like that, check out our Patreon. This is our Patreon, patreon.com, Sacredinbetween. And also check out all our social media, our website, and everything in the description down below. Thank you so much from the depth of my heart. And I see you guys in the next episode. We have a lot more. Check it out right there or check it out right there. Stay tuned, and I love you. I see you guys next time.